And I'm just going to say that if you're not familiar with who I am a clinical hypnotherapist and personal development coach. Basically, I help people access their intuition, activate your mind so you can awaken your purpose. And past life regression is a really awesome way to do that. Tonight, what I'm going to cover is basically like, why do people do past life regression? And then I'm going to talk to you about exactly how I describe it when someone comes for a session. So what to expect, because a big, huge piece of whether or not people feel like they can do the past life regression is understanding what it is, what it isn't, and what to expect when you're actually going to quote unquote go under in the session. So I'm going to talk about all of that tonight. And then at the end, I'll leave time for questions. So if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. And then I will respond to those questions at the end. And if you're here with me and I know who you are, just say something in the chat. And I would love to see who's on here tonight. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is an overall, why do people want to do past life regression? And, you know, when I was first involved in training for clinical hypnosis, I was out in Southern California. I was not raised with any kind of views against or for reincarnation, but I was taking my certification in clinical hypnosis at Orange Coast College. And my instructor, John Davis, who was a licensed clinical social worker, added this module into our training. And I was actually pretty surprised because I felt like, oh, you know, maybe it was something woo-woo or metaphysical. And he seemed just so clinical and really wanting to legitimize hypnotherapy as something that can help people heal and change behaviors, etc. So I was really kind of surprised that he even added it in there. And yet I did have some familiarity with it, because when I was attending the University of Virginia, the head of psychiatry while I was there was Ian Stevenson. And Ian Stevenson was the head of psychiatry, but his personal passion was to prove the validity of reincarnation. So what was fascinating to me about that is that he said he would travel over to India, because at the time, when he was doing a lot of his research, which I think was before I saw him, he was doing it in the 70s, maybe early 80s. And he would go into these remote villages where there was, I mean, at the time, there was no internet. There were, people didn't have cell phones. They didn't have phones. And he would follow these stories that he heard about young, very young children telling stories about other lives that they had lived. And the stories that he was seeking out were ones where there was a lot of detail, where he could go and research those stories and corroborate the information. And one story he gave was of a young child in India who remembered his past life as a Royal British Air Force pilot, like even down to where he got shot. And the kid had a birthmark there. And then he, you know, took all this data, went over to England, and sure enough, found this person, found that they got wounded and shot in that exact area. And it was just very, very compelling evidence. I tucked it away, but I didn't think about it again until I was doing my training. And then when I was doing my training, you know, we would take turns practicing on people and then being the client. And so I volunteered to get hypnotized to remember past lives. And the instruction was to pick something that you wanted to explore, a problem that you have in this life that seems mysterious or unexplainable, or, you know, you just feel like there's something more to it that you can't seem to unearth with your research or whatever you've done so far in your life. So I was in my mid-20s and I wanted to know why I had this debilitating allergies that came on, because when I was growing up, I didn't have any allergies. And then when I went to college, I started getting really bad, like hay fever, allergy to cats, and all kinds of stuff. And it was just really, really difficult to do, especially if you have pets. So we did the past life regression, and I remembered 2 lives, or 2 stories came to me, is what I'm going to say. 2 stories came to me. And the first story was of being this peasant in Rome and cutting wheat, and the wheat's flying up all around me, the grasses, and I'm really angry because the Roman Empire would come in every fall and take most of our harvest. And even though we worked all spring and summer to have this food, it was taken from us. And then, in short, another one was where I was a man and I was married to this woman who wore this really strong perfume all the time. And I was very angry with her and our marriage, and for several reasons. And when I came up from the past life regression session, I was like, whoa, okay. If you asked me, quick, make up some stories about why you had allergies and it coming from another life. I'm a really creative person, but I'm not that spontaneously creative. And even if you had asked me to do it, those would not have been the stories that my mind would have made up. But what was so powerful about those stories, it was like, my take on it was that they gave me a insight into my problem with the allergies in a metaphorical way. So even, my takeaway was, gosh, I don't even care if I really live these lives or not. I don't need to prove it or disprove it, because there's some wisdom there. So there's some wisdom in the stories. And, when we watch movies, almost every movie we watch, unless it's just, even really hilarious, funny movies, there's often a message behind them, a takeaway, something that makes us think. And both of these lives were that way for me. And what they revealed to me was that there was an emotional component to my allergies, meaning at the time I suppressed my emotions. I didn't really let myself express my emotions. And that came through in the stories. And then something I discovered way later on in life was that I was gluten intolerant. And that means I have problems eating wheat. And there I was in that field of wheat, but I didn't pick up on that day, because the people who were working with me and regressing me just didn't have the knowledge to help kind of guide me to pick up on some of those clues that a adept past life regression therapist would help you be able to do. So anyway, fast forward, working with thousands of people, many thousands of people to do past life regression. I've learned so much. And one of the things I've learned is that people typically come for one of 3 reasons. They come because they want to heal something. So maybe they have allergies or migraines or some kind of health issue, chronic health issue that just seems to be unshakable, or maybe there's a mystery around it. I had one woman who had chronic knee pain, and that actually went back to a previous life where she was a young boy with polio, and she had to wear those heavy metal braces on her legs. And so people come for healing. They also come for clearing a problem. So it might be, I've had people come because they've had chronic back pain, which would be healing, but clearing a problem like overeating or depression. And I had a young man who came for depression, and he said that he just, along with his depression, he always had this just unexplained guilt. And it wasn't like he was a good kid when he was growing up. He tried to be a good person. It wasn't like he did all these bad things and he was carrying this guilt from childhood. He just seriously just felt depressed and guilty. And he was in the finance industry, So it was kind of a stretch for him. He told me to do past life regression, but he was just really wanting to like go outside the box and figure out what was going on. And he did a past life regression, and it went back to a story where he was in World War II, Nazi Germany, and there were some a Jewish family hiding in the home of one of his neighbors, and somehow he knew about it and he reported them, and the family and both families, the Jewish family and the family that were hiding them, were shot in the square in his town. And right after it happened, he had this anguish and guilt, like, why did I do that? You know, he wasn't thinking through the consequences. And basically his soul carried forward that heavy, heavy guilt from that life. And so by doing the past life regression, he was actually able to clear that emotional grief and sadness and guilt. And it was an amazing session. It was just profound. I'll never forget that. So people will come to clear a phobia. Like I had a woman who had a phobia of water, and hers actually, interestingly, went back to World War II as well, where she was on a boat with many refugees, not just Jewish, but many other people who were trying to escape Nazi Germany. And the boat sank in the water, and she and her family drowned. So we were able to clear that doing past life regression. And so we've got healing, clearing, and then the third thing that people come for is they'll say, like, you know, I want to have this sense of purpose. I feel like I'm supposed to do more with my life. I feel like there's something missing, and I want to feel like I'm, you know, doing something with my life. So people will come for that reason as well. And so they'll be exploring, like, what's the bigger meaning? Why am I doing this life? What do I need to know to step into this bigger purpose or have a feeling of purpose in my life? So those are the three overarching reasons. And then underneath that, I came up with kind of 7 of the most popular reasons beneath that. And one would be activating your intuition. Michael Jaco and I talk about that a lot, and he talks about it. I did a discussion with him a couple weeks ago, and also did a live regression demonstration on him that you can find on my playlist, and that's on my spiritual discussion playlist. And I've got those links there if you want to watch those. And so why does past life regression help you with intuition? What is the deal with that? And the reason it helps you is because it is not a left brain analytical process. It is a process by which you're allowing the stories to come to you, and similar to, you know, how we have intuitive information come to us. It's not super clear per se. I always tell people you're going into maybe your first step into self-trust, trusting your intuition, when you allow a past life story to come to you without trying to analyze it or pick it apart while you're doing it. So it is a way to activate your intuition to do a past life regression. The other thing that a lot of people find when they do past life regression, the benefit of it is that they're able to forgive themselves or forgive others. Like the guy who was in Nazi Germany, sometimes it can really explain why in this life you've had a tortured relationship with someone where they've done really mean things to you. Or maybe you've done something to that person and you feel really horrible and you regret it. There's a lot of forgiveness that can happen when you begin to look at your actions in this bigger context, like jumping up 1,000 feet and looking at it over the course of your whole soul's journey, not just this life. And so there's really powerful insight with that. Okay, the other thing that's beneficial about doing a past life regression is that it will help you to reveal what I call soul themes. And so that's one thing I don't hear any other past life regression therapists talking about. And that is, if you do enough past life regressions, you're going to be able to see and understand some of your soul themes. So what are soul themes? Well, over time, throughout your incarnations, you will choose oftentimes to explore a theme, several lives that explore one theme. So let's say being the victim and then being the victimizer. And so, for example, I had a client, Chantel, who in this life had some abuse when she was growing up, physical and verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and really some very sad things that have happened to her. And it just feels like she can never catch a break with it. And so we did past life regression recently. And sure enough, there were lives where she was the victimizer, like basically kind of like a general in World War II who was very sadistic and mean to prisoners of war, and then going back to sometimes a time where she was a knight and raping and pillaging and things like that. So we were able to go through several lives. Not just 2 or 3, but I think about 4 or 5, where it was just boom. It was like, for her, it was like the victim in this life, the perpetrator in the life before, the victim in the life before that, and then the perpetrator in the life before that. And so that would be an example of a soul theme. Michael Jaco, one of his soul themes is like warrior, being a fighter, being a leader, being a king. So warrior, sage, I call it, sage meaning wise man. And that's very, very prominent in his past lives. And if you check out his book on past life regression or his YouTube channel, Michael Jaco. And so there's that. Then there's all kinds of soul themes. And one of the things that I will do in a one-on-one past life regression with people is I'm taking notes as you are going into your hypnosis. I'm taking notes, and I'm able to basically pull what those one or more themes are that are being revealed through these stories. So it would be like someone showing you 3 stories and then asking you, what do they all have in common? And so I'm able to see that very quickly, very easily. And so one of the things I will do is, as you're going through these past lives, I'm on the side over here taking notes, getting downloads, intuitive downloads, and just observing those soul themes, and then any other information that that I can share with you at the end of that regression. So that's soul themes. Identifying the source of a problem, like back pain or whatever it is. Identify unexplained relationships that you have with people. So it might be like you're totally attracted to somebody that is not good for you, or you're totally attracted to someone and they go back to their, wife, or they go back to their ex-girlfriend and you just can't get over it, or they're abusive with you and you have this ugly like love-hate relationship and you're just like, gosh, I just can't get off this hamster wheel, or I just can't get over this person. Oftentimes that goes back to past lives. Like, you've had past lives before. And I've had many, many, many people come because they were stuck on someone and they really wanted to heal that, clear that, so they could move forward and maybe have another relationship, or in the very least, just have peace of mind to get past this person that they know is unhealthy for them. either because you're just not good with that person, or they're abusive, they're narcissistic, or they're not in love with you like you're in love with them. So finding out those things is really powerful. Sometimes, I had a woman recently, just a beautiful young soul in her 20s, but young woman, old soul, as you would say, came because her boyfriend had committed suicide, and she was able to remember several beautiful, loving past lives with him and get some insight to why he left so early. He was in his 20s too. And really kind of, she said that she was just stuck. She couldn't get past it. She wasn't moving forward. She wasn't healing. And even in her head, she knew she needed to. And the past life regression helped her to get some insight and even a direct message from him in that session. And that's what I'm talking about with the intuition, guys. It's like, I didn't give her the message. She got the message directly from his soul in that session. And it was so beautiful. And just why I love doing this work. So there's that, explaining the unexplained when it comes to your relationships, helping you heal or move past them if you need to. And then accessing your gifts and abilities. So some people find that doing this work really, if you do it on a regular basis, hands down, it is going to open up your intuition because it is an intuitive process. And then what else? Raising your consciousness. Raising your consciousness. What does that mean? Raising your consciousness to me means that you are able to have a more like spiritual or ascended perspective on your life and everything that's happening here in this life. So if we go higher consciousness, we typically can rise above ego, jealousy, resentment, regret, guilt, all of that. Why? Because when you do past life regression or go to the time between lives, you understand that every single one of us has signed up for this experience. For me doing this for 25 years and having done thousands of past life regression sessions for people, and again, not having any preconceived ideas about it before I came into this, because I wasn't raised to have any, is that you really have the opportunity to see that everything that's happening here on this earth is an opportunity for us to learn and grow, whether you perceive it as something negative or bad, uncomfortable, welcoming. It's all for the experience. And when you know that, when you can see and go back through several lives, then I think it just makes it so much easier to be able to stay in that high vibration, higher consciousness perspective, no matter what's happening in your life. You really, really will just vault forward in your ability to move beyond one of the biggest themes in the world today, and has been, is the victim-victimizer theme. And when you can rise above that, let me tell you, even if you feel downtrodden, even if you feel like you've had some really horrible things happen to you in your life, if you can get to this place where you can rise above that, victimizer perspective, belief system, energy, you have just instantly pole vaulted ahead in a way, because so many people struggle with it. But it's like an instant, like, raise your vibration, raise your consciousness experience to pop out of that victimizer belief system and go to this place where I signed up for all of it. It's all for the learning. It's all for the adventure. It's all an opportunity for my soul to learn, heal, and grow. And then that's releasing the karma. And what is karma? Karma is, to me, these lessons that we do come in, this energy that we do come into experience. So let's say that a lot of people will come into this life, they'll bring forward karma. So let's say they were victimizing somebody in a past life. They'll come into this life and have an experience where they were victimized. And because that's an opportunity to move beyond that. So it's like, oh, we're going to give you the lesson again. We're going to give you another situation where you're going to be victimized. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to rise above it? Are you going to move beyond victim mentality? Are you going to see the soul lessons? And when you do, then you just shift to this and anchor into this much higher vibration that's beyond what I call the duality way of living and thinking. And so that's really, on one level, that what it's done for me is like, there's no victims. We all sign up for everything. And I really believe that. And that has just come from seeing thousands of people have these experiences from all walks of life. And most of them, the lives aren't anything fancy or famous, but the lessons are there. So. Okay, so now what I wanted to do in this second half is to have you just listen in on, basically what would I be telling you if you came for your session today? And so the first thing I would tell you is you won't be knocked out or asleep. That is a myth with hypnosis. You aren't knocked out or asleep. You're actually just very, very relaxed. The first part of the hypnosis, I take you into a relaxation. And for people who are coming in their first time, I do an extended relaxation induction. People who come in and they're like, yep, I've meditated 1,000 times and, I can go into hypnosis like that. Well, then like somebody like Michael Jaco, I'm going to take him right in, and we don't need to do that because he can get into that altered state because he has muscle memory with it. He can get into it in, 5 minutes, or really probably 1 minute. But but for people who are starting out and they're still just getting used to being in this altered state of hypnosis, I will usually do about 10 to 15 minutes of it'll feel like a guided meditation. And then in that guided meditation, your job, your number one job is to suspend disbelief, suspend that analytical mind that wants to pick it apart, that wants to ask while you're actually having the experience, is this real? Am I making it up? How do I know? And so I tell you to put all of that aside, because if you come and do the past life regression, you're going to get a recording of it. So you can always go back and research it, listen to it, look up names, places, details if you want. And so imagine if you went to watch a James Bond movie. Now, there are people who will sit down and watch that movie and go, oh my gosh, that stunt could never happen. Oh, right. Do you think that? Da, da, da. And they're picking apart the movie. They're not getting into the story. So what we love so much about movies is that we allow ourselves to get into the story. We suspend disbelief. The creative mind takes the lead, and we engage in that story as if it's real. So your intuition is going to skyrocket if you can just dial down that analysis, quiet that analytical mind, and just kind of blank your mind like you're waiting for a movie to start. You're going to let that story come to you. And then your job is to just start speaking. So this would be, after I've taken you through the relaxation, and then what I do is part of that relaxation, I take you to what's called I call the Hall of Records. So the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records is described as a place where all the stories of all your lives past, of course your present, parallel lives and future lives, and even lives in other dimensions is stored. It's like the big encyclopedia of all the stories of your life are there. And to just help people focus, because some people might feel it or imagine it as an energetic dimension, but just to help people focus, I have you imagine it's in this place, it's a building. And then when you enter inside that building, there's this long corridor of doors to the left, doors to the right, and each one is a life that you could explore today. And then based on what your intentions are for the session, that will basically kind of lead the way. So if you said, okay, I want to know why I'm stuck on this guy that I just can't get over, and I know it's not healthy for me and it's bringing me heartache every day, but I just can't let him go, then then you would set that intention, and that would guide what sessions come up for you. But like Chantel, when she came, she said, you know, I just want to know why I have this whole life had these situation after situation of where, you know, I was abused as a child. I got my children taken away from me. Like all these bad things have happened to me. And I just want to understand whatever I need to understand so I can move past that and let that go. So your intention, if it's vague, you will get maybe more like whatever you're supposed to know that day versus knowing about something specific. But if you set the intention, I want to know why this is happening, or I want to know, I had one woman whose husband died and they were just like so in love and together for, I think, like 2 decades. And she wanted to know if she had ever had other lives with him, because that was going to give her hope that she would see him again. And she did. She saw other lives with him. So she was very specific. But then sometimes when people are about to walk down that hallway, basically their intention is just show me whatever I need to know for my highest good today. Show me whatever I need to know that will assist me with my life going forward right now. So, so that's basically setting those intentions. And then your job is to just let your analytical mind get out of the way. And that means you don't analyze it. You don't pick it apart as it's coming to you. And the best way to do that is to just start speaking out loud. And I actually have a little lapel mic that I clip on if it's an in-office session. If it's a Zoom session, then, you know, the Zoom is going to record you. And some people will wear like little earbuds with the microphone so they don't have to talk too loud, and it'll go right into their laptop. And so then we'll go through one or more lives. And what's really fascinating is some people will get little vignettes, and some people will get very long, detailed stories. And I used to ask myself, like, why is this? Why is it like some people will get a little fragment of a life with very wishy-washy details, and other people, it's like they're literally dictating a screenplay to me. You know, the walls were gritty. I could smell the burning candles, and it was just, it's so like you're there in a movie. And so I was always wondering, well, is that because some people are more detail oriented, and then maybe other people are more like they get the big picture? But over time, what I've noticed and came to see from observing people is that I believe that sometimes what's happening is you'll just see a little flash, a little vignette to kind of set up the soul theme, or because there was just one scene from that life that's really pertinent to why you're here in this session today, having this past life regression. And then, so I noticed with one man, he had a little vignette of one life, then he had a little vignette of another life, and then the third life, it was boom, like literally just tons and tons of detail. And it was like he was sharing a movie. And so it can come both ways. And I think for people, when they've had like spontaneous past life recall, like a deja vu, maybe they're visiting someplace in the world, they've gone on a vacation, maybe they just have this vague feeling like, yeah, I've been here before, you know, that deja vu feeling. And then some people will have a full blown like download, like they just saw a movie flash before their eyes. So it's really fascinating. But, you know, why is it one way or the other? I think it's basically because whatever you need to know about that life, whatever's pertinent about that life will be shown to you. And sometimes that's brief, one little message, and then sometimes it's more detailed. So that's basically how I describe it to people, to you, if you come and do a past life regression session with me. So I think the main thing is just knowing you won't be asleep. You're going to hear what you say. But interestingly, and when I do record it, is people will go back, they'll listen again, and then they'll say, oh my gosh, wow, I didn't remember saying that. Or if you, and how I describe that or compare it to is if you've ever had a dream and you wake up from the dream, and right when you wake up from the dream, it's super vivid. Like you remember all the details and you think you're going to remember it because it's so vivid and full of details. And then as the day progresses on, that dream seems to fade and you lose some of the details. If you were to retell it at 10 o'clock that night, you may have already forgotten pieces of it. And then, so what happens is oftentimes you think you're going to remember it all, but then you don't until you have something to jog your memory and you go back and you listen to the recording and then it's there. So that's why it's really helpful to have that recording. And that also is indicative that you're in a hypnotic trance. You think you're going to remember, but you're also in that light hypnotic trance state naturally when you wake up in the morning out of sleep. So it can feel very similar, like you're going to remember it all, but then you don't. So that's why we record it. And I take notes. And then at the end, we basically kind of do an analysis of it. Like, at the end of every life, actually, we'll be looking at what you learned, what you gained, and then kind of tying it all up in a bow at the end. So trying to think if there's anything else I tell people, when they're coming for the session, definitely not drinking caffeine, to be more relaxed, just to suspend disbelief, trust what comes through, analyze it later after the session. And I think that's about it, unless there's any questions. And if you're watching this later, after the live, I will drop back in and look and see if there are any questions. And I want to say thanks to Kathleen for coming on tonight. And I'm not sure if you have any questions, you could drop them in the chat, but if not, I will say, Kathleen is one of my students and she's studying hypnotherapy to help people with trauma. And I think that is something that past life regression and regular traditional clinical hypnotherapy can help with, is clearing trauma. And so it can be very valuable for that as well. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, I will end this live. And like I said, if you have any questions later on watching this, you can post them in the comments below, or I will also post links to my website, RebeccaTaylorshaw.com, and you can check out more information about doing a past life regression there. And I do one-on-ones virtually via Zoom. And so if you can use Zoom, you can do a live virtual session with me for past life regression. And if you're wanting to come to the Charleston area, you can schedule to do something in the office with me. And people do ask me, like, what's the difference in a virtual session versus a live session? Honestly, there's really no difference once you close your eyes. So I'm in the room with you via Zoom. And I actually think Zoom works best with a laptop versus like certainly not your phone, even though you can Zoom with your phone and you can Zoom with a tablet. I highly recommend that if you're going to do a virtual with me, that you do it from a bigger size screen so I can see your face and then I can kind of pace you. So that that helps me to just see if you're processing something. And that does remind me of one other really important thing I wanted to say about the difference between doing a group past life regression versus the one-on-one. Big difference. You can have amazing downloads, amazing experiences with a group past life regression. There is one significant difference between doing a group versus doing it one-on-one, and that's what I call pacing. So again, if you watch Michael Jaco's the demonstration I did for him of past life regression. So he would speak out loud, tell me what he was seeing, what he was experiencing. And then when he was done sharing, I would ask him a question, or he would say to me, do you have any questions? Typically, he's just very adept and he's pretty advanced at doing all this, but I would ask the questions once you're done sharing, and that might guide where we go or what we do, the next step. Now, if you're in a group situation, because I'm not pacing with the person one-on-one, what I would do is say, okay, step through the door, see your life, see a life that does X or whatever our attention would be for the group. And then I'm going to arbitrarily pause and wait, look at my watch and say, okay, I'm going to give them 5 minutes to see whatever they're going to see. And then you don't say it out loud. You just see it, feel it, experience it internally, have your own experience with it. And then I would have you, open your eyes and journal, write it down like you're writing a dream or a daydream. You journal. And then we do it again. Typically we would do it 3 times. So you go through another door and I'd say, okay. And I would guide you to see what you're going to see, give you, let's say 5 minutes with it. And then you would journal about what you saw. And then we would do that a 3rd time, or go to the time between lives. Typically, most people ask to go to the time between lives when their soul was choosing this life. And so that's when you're like, okay, I'm going into this life. What did I want to learn? What did I want to, experience? What did I want to heal? What did my soul really want to do with this life? And so sometimes in a group situation, we'll make the last door going to the time between lives when your soul was choosing the current life. And then again, maybe there for 5 minutes, experiencing whatever you're experiencing, just internally, quietly, and then writing about it. And then at the end of the group session, then I would give people time to talk about their experience. And so at the end, people can share, if they want to share. So that's how a group is run versus one-on-one. You're speaking out loud and I'm able to guide you, ask you questions, what happens next, So it's different. They're both great. If you've never done any at all, I would recommend just doing one or the other. And if you have really personal things that you want to work on, or you're concerned at all, about sharing at the end of the group live, then you might want to do a one-on-one. And so there's that. And then one other question I get sometimes is people will ask me will I be shown something I don't want to see? And I will tell you, again, after regressing thousands of people, that oftentimes people see things that aren't that pleasant, war, crimes that have happened, etc. But I have never, ever in 25 years had someone say, oh, wow, I wish I didn't see that. Not at all. And my takeaway on that is that you will not be shown anything you are not ready to see. You will not be shown anything you're not ready to see. So you can have, maybe we're just going to make this up, but 100 incarnations that you've had, and you will be shown the ones that are related to what your intention is for that session, what you want to gain from that session, whether it's to heal or clear or get more clarity on your purpose. But you will never be shown a life that you aren't ready to handle. And I'll tell you, it just has so impressed me because people from all walks of life have been shown some really serious things, and they'll come up and, you know, I had a woman who had been in this life molested, and in a past life, she was the rapist. And when that first happened, I was like, the first time that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. You know, what's she going to do with this? And we explored that life. It was really, really powerful for her. And when she came up out of the hypnosis, she's like, wow, that really explains some things. And I was just like, you cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up, because it's just so profound, so powerful, so healing, and you will only get what you're ready to get. I totally believe that. And maybe that's just part of my intention with the session. You know, maybe my intention creates that space for it to happen like that. But I think that's everything I can think of, but I know there's always a million questions. So if you think of any others, please reach out to me. And you can also go to my contact page at RebeccaTaylorShaw.com and email me a question there, or post something in the comment again. And thank you all. And I hope this was helpful and that it encourages you to explore past lives for healing, for clearing, and for activating your purpose. My love to you all.